Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Lucas, and welcome to another episode of Amps in the Axe FX3. Today, we are going to be looking at some more FAS Customs. This is part 2 of the FAS Custom Amps. Last episode, make sure you check that one out. I'll put it up top. We covered some of the other amps. We covered the bass amps and the hot rod and a few other amps, but this time we're going to be covering a lot more of the high gain amps. So what are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at the Brutes, we're going to be looking at a lot of the Moderns, we're going to be looking at the Skullcrusher, and we're going to be looking at a few more tame amps that aren't exactly as high gain toward the end. So guys, make sure you are subscribed because I don't want you to miss any of the cool stuff we got going on here. So let's jump right in to looking at the amp. So the first one we're going to look at is going to be the Brutes amp. And the Brutes amp was actually created I think back in the Axe FX2, I believe, and this was actually an accident. Quote straight from Cliff, he was working on the Savage model and he accidentally used the input stage from the SLO 100. It's the front end of an SLO and the back end of a Savage. It's probably the SLO power amp he said he would have to check. And it's a very unique amp because you're kind of combining two different kind of amps to make something pretty different. And for the guitar I'm going to be using today, this is my Black Cat 7-string ferrule, and it has Keith Merrill Fishmans in it, and I'm in drop A flat. So without further ado, let's check out some Brutes. The Brutes amp is definitely a brutal amp. One of the things that I kind of like about it is it's kind of tamed in the aspect of it doesn't really get that crazy no matter how you push it, and it isn't overly bright. Because some of the amps that we're looking at today, they kind of get a little bright. Let's see what it sounds like with the bright switch on. Kind of gives it a little bit more of that genty flavor whenever you put the bright switch on. For the IR, for like 98% of these amps that we're going to be looking at today, it's going to be the same one I use in a lot of videos here. The DGD Zilla oversized 412 with a UKV3 with an SM57 on it. And now let me roll through my settings. This is pretty much the settings I use on just about everything. For all the high gain stuff, this is the one we're going to be using. And then when we look at some of the wrecker stuff, we're going to be going back to that emerald green one we used in the first video. Brutes, it's a cool amp. You can definitely gent out of it. A lot of these amps that we're going to be looking at today, they kind of all are in that same vein, but they kind of do things a little bit differently. Now, let's move over to my FAS 2 patch. And this is going to be the Skullcrusher that we're going to be looking at. For the Skullcrusher, I don't even think it's in this right here. It's not. By the way, this is the X amp guide. I'll put a link to that in the description down below if you want to check it out. We come to this is the Axe FX wiki right here. Here's where I'm getting this from. So from the Axe FX wiki, let's look at the Skullcrusher. That one should be toward the bottom. Yes, here it is. I believe, I can't remember. I think this one came in the 3. I cannot exactly remember when it came out. It's just a nasty high gain amp. That's really all it is. There's really no much more information than that. It's just a custom amp that Cliff made. So, without further ado, let's check out the Skullcrusher. The Skullcrusher is a lot hotter than the Brutes because, as you can see, I'm only at 3, and we have a lot of gain there. A lot of gain on tap. What did I do for the EQ? Just some mids. This is EQ on and off. just a little bit of a mid scoop out of there just to kind of clear things up a little bit. Let's see what it sounds like if we push it hard. You can definitely do some doom with this amp if you definitely want to do that with the Skullcrusher. It's pretty versatile. And like I said, when I was dialing all these in, what I normally do is I lower the master to keep things nice and tight. I left the presence at default and messed with the input trim. I kept it very simple. I've messed with the Skullcrusher before, and it wasn't necessarily my forte, but coming back to it now and messing with it with seven strings, I like it. It's very interesting. It's a little bit more gainy than the Brutes, like I would say. So I kind of lean more toward the Skullcrusher than the Brutes, if that counts for anything. Okay, now looking down at my notes here, this is where we're gonna kind of take a turn here. We're gonna navigate from the FAS Custom 2 patch, and we're gonna go to some of my other patches where I have some of these amps dialed in a long time ago, and kind of would have disrupted the whole flow of this patch. By the way, if you want the presets or the patches, just let me know, and I'll throw them up when I exchange if there's any interest in them. So now we're going to be looking at FAS Modern 1 or FAS Modern, and the best example that comes to mind when I think of the FAS Modern is from Periphery 1. And I'm actually going to do a whole nother video on this. This is a Periphery 1 tone match that I did. I was working on it, but I got a little bit sidetracked with everything that's going on in the world, and this is what it is. So the IR right here, it's a Periphery 1 tone match. I did it this year. My friend Joe did one that I actually uploaded to AxeChange a while back on his AxeFX 2, but I redid it with the AxeFX 3, and I'm gonna use FAS Modern for this, and let's see what it sounds like. And the per scene that we're on, it just has a little bit more gain in it as opposed to this one, which is tight and just a little bit more dry. Would help if I turn my volume up. Now, FAS Modern is a very interesting amp because let's actually read about it a little bit. It's actually in here. So the modern amps themselves, they're very interesting because they're basically just Cliff's takes on what he thinks a modern high gain amp should sound like. And to me, the FAS Modern, this was back around in the standard and ultra days, because like I said, I called this P1 because that's what P1 was recorded with, was the FAS Modern. And it kind of reminds me of a more modern 5150, if that makes sense, because it has that kind of saturation in it, and that's just kind of what it reminds me of. It's not exactly like it, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. And I'll talk more about the 2 and the 3 as we go along. I really like FAS Modern. I had never really sat and messed with it before because I was off like I had a patch set up on my 2, and I would just use like my Mark IV and my 5150 patch that I found. But like really dialing it in here, trying to get the P1 sound going. I used the block letter to try and get it to work, and it wasn't working. And as soon as I switched to the Modern, it instantly clicked. So like I said, it reminds me of the 5150, but it is a little different. It's perfect for gin. It really is. Now this is the tight one, and it's just literally, pretty sure it's the same settings. Yeah, the settings are pretty much the same. It's just a little bit lower input. Yeah, I kind of like to stay on the per whenever I come in here. By the way, like I said, I'm going to do a whole video by itself for this patch. Alright, so that was FAS Modern 1. Now, let's move on to the Modern 2 and 3. Now, the Modern 2 and 3, they're in my Mesa patch right here. Let's actually start on 2. They're very different from the first FAS Modern. I feel like the way the Moderns work is you have the one that's right here. This is like kind of 5150 realm. Then you move to the FAS Modern 2. And this one, it's kind of a 50. So it has a 5150 style boost in the stack, and it has so much gain. It usually stays around 3. I find this one is like a mix between a 5150 and a Mesa. The drive that I have on here, it's just the it's a FET boost, and I have it on there for both of them. As you can see, I have the gain really low, and I'm just scooping a little bit of mids out of there. IR is still the same. And let's check out FAS Modern 2. And this is with the bright switch off. FAS Modern 2 is interesting. I do like FAS Modern 2, but it's very different from 1. As you can see, it has a lot more gain. You can turn the bright switch. I kind of like it with the bright switch on, but it does kind of raise the gain floor a little bit. Master is very low. It also has a lot of bass. It has a lot more bass than what 1 does. And like I said, that's why I find this one pushes more toward the recto territory. And now let's check out FAS Modern 3. So, straight up on 3, it was added in firmware 17 instead of the XFX 2. It's similar to a recto, but with tighter bass, cathode power amp. As Yek says, it's loud. To me, this one is kind of like Cliff's recto. It's kind of like FAS's recto, and you'll see what I mean. Let me play it for you. I find that this amp, it's kind of drier. I know I have it in dial it in here at 3. It does remind me a lot of a recto because it has so much bass. It's way more bassier. Way more bassier. I don't think that's quite English. It's a lot bassier than 1 or 2. Let's push up the gain a little bit. Yeah, you see how when I pushed it up even more, low end kind of came up. So to me, this is kind of like FAS's on recto. I kind of like it a little bit better than recto because you don't really have to like scoop the crap out of it like you do a recto. So no EQ. Probably can actually back some of those mids off. It does sound a little bit harsh. With a little bit of fine, perfect tweaking, I can probably get it absolutely amazing. Put that back down a little bit, and let's just do it while we're here. Why not? Yeah, it's still kind of a little bit bloated there in the mids, but I don't want to keep you here all day. So that's FAS Modern 3. They all have their own very uniqueness. I find that 2 and 3 are they're a little bit better for like note clarity, so it's a little bit more spanky. I find they're a little bit better for that, so if you're like going more for like a Tesseract type of thing, it's a little bit cooler from that. I find FAS Modern, it's a little bit more saturated. You can kind of get more purr out of it than what you can 2 or 3. So that is going to be it for the Moderns. We're wrapping up the Moderns. Let's go back to the FAS 2 patch because I forgot to cover something in here. I forgot to cover the 6160, which is very important. I could find it. Yes, I missed it. I missed an opportunity to put it at preset 6. This is the 6160, so this is what I'm using here. I'm using the precision drive, same IR. This is FAS's version of a 5150. Now, the 6160, I did this in another video. I'll link that up top. This is when I went over all of the 5150s and the Axe-Fx. I did that about a couple years ago. And to me, the 6160 is okay. Like when you first load it up, you don't really have to tweak it a whole lot to kind of get some good sounds. But kind of once you find the sound that you like, it kind of like stays there. It doesn't go farther than when you find that sound that you like, if that makes any sense. It gets a little bit fuzzy the more that you push it. It's supposed to be not as like fuzzy as a 5150, but I kind of prefer the block ladder over the 6160. It is cool and you can get some interesting sounds out of it. I just prefer the block ladder over the 6160. So guys, that is actually gonna be it for all of the super high gain stuff. I know that's not some of you guys who watch this is forte, and I appreciate you for sticking with me. But now we are going to be checking out the train wrecks. So let me switch guitars real quick. Alright, got my guitars changed. So now we're going to be looking at the train wrecks. Now, for those who do not know, this is what the train wreck looks like. So the train wrecks are like 1B in the amp world. You have 1A, which is Dumble, and 1B is the train wrecks. Now, they are made by Mr. Ken Fisher. He actually passed away. He was basically an insane genius. He was really awesome with his amps because he hand wired like all of them. And this is kind of like how a lot of them look. There's a few different models of it. So let's kind of dive into this lore a little bit. So this is the FAS Wreck. And from everything that I've read, I don't think this one is based on a specific train wreck itself. I believe, from what I've read, Cliff said that the Wreck amp is all the good things about the Wreck. It's the original Wreck 1 model from the Axe-Fx Center. It's everything that's good about the Wreck, but like none of the bad in it, basically. So this is the train wreck. And Yek says in here, Cliff does own a train wreck, but the exact model is not known. Okay, so we were going to be looking at the Wrecker Express, which that one sounds kind of like a Plexi, right? But like I said, this original one right here, I don't exactly know what it was based on. I'm pretty sure it's based on that wreck sound, but all of the bad stuff stripped out. That is what Cliff has said. And that's the wreck right here. I scooped a little bit of mid out of it, just a little bit. It's amazing how it clears up when you take a little bit of those mids out. IR's ML Green, same one we used on the first video. Alright, let's move on to the final amp we are going to be looking at in the FAS series, and that's going to be the Train Wreck Express. It's just called the Express, but it's based on the Train Wreck Express. See, this is what Yet goes into right here. It's the Wrecker Express model is based on the Train Wreck Express, which sounds similar to a Marshall Plexi, like I said before. But look, if you come all the way to the end in here, we actually do have the Wrecker Express. One of the mods for this one is that it has a master volume. The normal one doesn't. Watch, actually, let's come to 6. I don't have anything here. And let's actually go to the Wrecker and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Actually, see, so that one, there's no master volume on it. So the input drive is what will give you your volume on that. But since this is the Axe-Fx and we can do whatever we want with it, we can mod stuff, we do have a master volume on it. The master volume and the input do interact very well with each other. So if you turn up the master volume, you do get that gain in there. It's a little mid-heavy. Because look at the mids I took out of it, and there's still a lot in it. I could probably scoop some more. Look, I have the mids all the way down. There's so much mids in here. I think I like the Express, FAS Express, a little bit more than I like the FAS Wreck. I don't know. I just kind of like the sound a little bit better. Let's try with the bright switch on. Oh, it's a little bright. I actually kind of like it a little bit better on the darker side. There's anything more details I can tell you on the Express. Let's come up here. Yeah, and that's what I said before. The massive volume is the mod. It's hypothetical modifications. Alright guys, I know this video was a long one. Thank you so much for watching. We covered a lot of cool FAS amps. I kind of liked a lot of the amps in here. I like the Modern, I like the Express. You have so much to choose from. And as Cliff said before, if he would have his way, there'd be nothing but just FAS amps in the XFX, but people clamoring for other amps. So he was nice enough to put those in. Guys, if you thought this video was cool, leave me a like. I would greatly appreciate that like. If you thought this was cool and you want to stick around, press that sub button. It would mean a lot to me. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Peace. Train whistle out.